Everyone, week 7, this is the last week before reading week. We're gonna finish, we're gonna continue looking at Tableau and some advanced Tableau analytics tools and doing dual axis and synchronizing axis. So it'll be another cool lab using Tableau and just more things you can use in your projects towards making our dashboards and our stories eventually, which will be the next piece. So last week was our second week in Tableau. So we'll just do a little recap of what we covered before we move on. And then, next week's reading week, so you have the week off, and then we'll come back and we'll kind of continue where we're leaving off here. So just make sure you're saving the files as we go. So speaking of last week, who remembers some of the new stuff that we uncovered in Tableau? Yeah, some of those features that we would have used.
We went to the dashboards and we did the floating windows.
Nice.
We did the mobile view and the tablet view.
Yep.
And then we saw a lot of visuals like the pie chart, bar chart, line charts.
Yep.
How to remove nulls, how to remove titles, how to remove axes.
Perfect. Yeah. So let me hear. I'll just share my screen on this one. There we go. So we made something that looked like this, and you'll see it in Teams in just a second. There we go. So you should be able to see that. So we made our first dashboard in Tableau, which is basically a combination of worksheets. So all our worksheets were on the bottom here, and then when we make a new dashboard, that's this button in the bottom right, it brings up a blank canvas where we can choose on the left-hand side here any of these sheets, and if you hover over them, it might not show for me right now. Let's see, actually. Oh yeah, if you hover over them, it'll show you a little preview of what each graphic is, or each visual that we've made. And then we talked about the difference between tiled and floating. So tiled, it kind of locks you to a specific spot where you drag the chart, and it tries to like automatically guess. But floating gives you the complete control of exactly where you want to put that graph. You can drag and drop, and exactly where you want to put the title and drop downs. And if you want to get rid of axes or little legends, like the little colors that explain the graph, then you can just get rid of them. We also talked about filtering, so using or not using a specific visual as a filter. So that's this little button. So if I wanted to use this as a filter and I click that button, I can now select a piece of this chart, and it will filter out the rest of the visuals based on now first class shipping numbers, right? So this is now going to be daily sales only for first class shipping. Whereas if I click this standard class, now it's going to change the standard class. If I click off, then it's going to show all sales, right? So we talked about the filtering, we talked about the tiling. We also talked about tooltips. So having this little window float over, and that's just done in the actual visual itself, where if we go to the word cloud like this, and I hover over it, we've got a little tooltip that's coming from another visual. Let's see if I can find it. It's on the bottom somewhere here. This table. This table is basically what's coming over as the tooltip. And this tooltip city, tooltip state gets brought in when you create the tooltip on the word chart, on the word cloud there. And that was the last thing you said was, I think Nishant got them all. Basically, you said mobile view and desktop view.
Yeah.
So we looked at the different types of views that you can do while you're creating your layout. So up here in the dashboard, we have our default view, default preview, but then you can also create the dashboards for specific devices. So here we've got our phone dashboard, and then you could customize what it would look like on the phone dashboard. And remember, whenever we make a dashboard, we always select the automatic drop down here for the size. Otherwise, it'll just be like a fixed canvas, and then when you bring it to a bigger screen, there'll just be a lot of white space, or vice versa, and then it will just be, it'll just be squished. Cool. Any questions about any of the stuff from last week? Is everyone caught up to this point where they have this dashboard?
Yeah,
you
hello,
know,
Professor.
comfortable. Yeah,
Hello.
Christopher.
Yeah, I want to ask. We did a lot of stuff last week. I think within the last 2 weeks on Tableau, which are really exciting, like the insights you provided and all that. So I'm wondering if you have like a kind of PowerPoint uh, presentation that's talked about these things somehow, so that when we are trying to work on our own after the course, we don't need to struggle most times remembering what we did, because most of those stuffs you did were recorded on video. So I'm just
Right.
wondering if you have any PowerPoint slides that can just be like a hands-on go-to when we need it.
Right, similar to the Power BI section.
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's a good point, Christopher. So quick answer is no, I don't. But that is a really good point. So that's something that I can work on. It'll probably be like a little bit of time before I can get that. So I wouldn't expect to see it like next week by any means, but I can definitely make slides with some steps of going through some stuff that would just be helpful, like a little package. But that'll take me a little bit to compile. So that is a really good idea. But for now, I think the best way would probably be going through the YouTube videos that I post. So I did put the last 2 weeks online on my YouTube channel, where you can just go and view the recordings from basically in class what we did, and then you can just kind of scroll through and you can change the speed to 2 times if you want to just hear me chipmunk style, and then just kind of skip through to the points where you want to find any additional help.
Okay. Do you have such for Power BI? The PowerPoints, do you have them for Power BI?
I do have slides for Power BI.
Oh,
If
really?
that would
Okay, but
be
we didn't have them during your classes.
sorry.
I said you didn't give us during your classes. You didn't share
Oh,
those.
maybe they're not in. So I teach Power BI in 2 courses. So we covered Power BI in BDAT1006.
Yes.
But then I also teach Power BI in the BDAT1010 course. But if you're not in my BDAT1010 stream, which is business intelligence, I think I have a totally different set of PowerPoints for business intelligence than I do for BDAT1006, because there's different things that I'm teaching in each for the same application. But I can give you the PowerPoints from my business intelligence BDAT1010.
Oh, that would be
I
great.
can give you those resources if those would be helpful to you.
Yeah, sure. That would be great. Thank you.
Yeah, because you're not in my business intelligence stream, are you?
No, I'm not.
Yeah. Yeah, so I can give you, I think we've got is it 5 weeks on Power BI? I think we did
Yeah,
5 weeks.
yeah. No, 4 weeks.
4 weeks.
Yes, yes.
I've got 4 weeks of slides that I can give you. So
Oh, thank
if
you.
I forget, or if you want to just now, just you can send me a really quick email. It'll just be like a little note, little reminder, and
Okay.
I'll just do it after class,
Okay. Thank you,
and I
sir.
can post
Thank you.
those. Yeah,
Thank you.
for sure. No, good questions.
Thanks so much.
Yeah, Israel?
No, I would just respond and say thank you so much for providing
Oh,
that,
yeah. No
because
worries. Yeah.
yeah, that would be like a repository information. Okay, when we're out of the course.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, they were super helpful to have little PowerPoints where you can just quickly skip through and see all the steps of what we did. So yeah,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I've got a question here. When we're working on Power BI, there's a way that you're trying to like bring in 2 or 3 reports together, and without struggling to see how it aligns, it comes up with a line um, that Power BI comes up with that line that shows, okay, that this is the way it should be. But in Tableau, it's like you have to struggle to align it vertically or horizontally. I'm wondering there is such feature in in Tableau, okay, to ensure that
So
you're.
this is interesting. So let me open up a Power BI file here and tell me what feature you're speaking about, and then we can see what. Like, are you talking about in the model view when there's relationships between more than one table?
Not okay. You see, if if for instance you want the sales by country and revenue, if you want them to be in the same line, okay, you could just drag it, and as you drag in to show you where it's
Oh, like this, like snap
good.
to,
Yeah, good. Yeah.
like the alignment.
Yeah, the alignment. Do you have something like that in Tableau?
Okay, I see what you're getting at. Okay, so that's like a grid or the snap to, okay. So for our dashboard specifically, like when we were playing around with this, you don't
Yeah.
really get that. I
Yeah.
see what you're talking about.
Hey,
Right.
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we were looking at this very quickly last week. What do we see? We saw this show grid. So you could go through and you could line it up exactly with that blue line on that grid manually,
Okay.
like this, and then they would be lined up. But I think there is a way to grid options, and then we could, oh no, that's just grid size. Let's see if there's a way to turn on a snap in Tableau. Because that would be, so dashboard, show grid. Yeah, so that just turns the grid lines on and off, which is what they're talking about. You can also press the letter G, and you can see these lines appear and disappear. But I don't know if there's actually a snapped grid. Let's see. So what you could do is, so if we wanted these to be the same, like height, I guess, like so their bottom and their tops are the same height. I think what we could do, I'll just bring them down like this for now, kind of hide them behind, is we could bring in a container or like a oh, I think I'm in tiled view right now, sorry. Let me just remove that, go to floating. So we could bring in like a floating container like this, which will act as like the parent container, and we can drag that out to be the same width. And then what we can do is we can bring these into the container. Let's see. Send it back. What'd you say?
You need to make sure when you're dragging itself go through the thing.
Right. No. Hold shift while you do it. See if we can put this in the container. So if, yeah, if that's what this says too, Nishank. If you hold down shift while you're dragging, you can drag them around and resize them as one. And then if you select the container, it'll affect all of them. So we have to hold shift while we drag it into the container, but that's not working for me. Shift. Oh, here. I don't know if it works on a blank, but if you do it on a vertical or a horizontal, so I think we would want a horizontal container like this. It gives us the option, hold down shift to drop floating objects into this container. So I can hold down shift, and then now this highlights blue. There we go. And so now it's part of that container. How do I get that back though? I think we got to make the container the right width first. So go like this, line it up with this grid. Just kind of experimenting as we go here, Israel. So we get the height that we want. I'm using the grid in the background to do it. And then I want to put this in here, and I want to put this in here. So I'm going to hold shift and drop. And then also here, hold shift. And then you can see where I hover, I get a little gray bar there, or there, or there, or on the bottom. So depending on where I drop it. And now they should be perfectly aligned vertically. And then I think what we can do is we can just use this to change the width of each one. So if I want it to be a little bit wider than my donut graph, then I could line it up like that. But now you can see the bottoms are going to be exactly aligned. And if I can just click in the right spot and get the container here, or if I just go to the layout and I just get this container, I can stretch the height as well, and then they'll stretch to the same height. So dynamically, it's going to be really easy to make changes to both of their heights, and they'll be perfectly lined up. Does that help?
Yeah, it does. It does. Thank you.
So I don't know if it's as fast as Power BI, but you have a lot more control over what is in a horizontal row or a vertical row like this. And then it's super dynamic. I think this would carry over to like the phone view as well. Oh, maybe not. I think it's completely different actually, unless I unlock this. Let me go to the layout. It does have everything in a vertical, and then here's my horizontal. And they are inside of it, but it must just be so skinny that it pushes it to the next row. So yeah, so there you go. That's like the easy way to do it, is to use these objects here, vertical or horizontal, drop them inside, and then you can put them together. But make sure you're on the floating view when you do it, because if you do tiled, it'll just take up the whole page. Good question.
Thanks.
Yeah, no worries.
So, but before we remove the containers for a new dashboard, we must first of all change to floating, right? Or we remove the containers first before changing to floating?
You want to change to floating first before you bring the contents in.
No, I mean, like the last one we did in class last week, first of all, we removed all the containers. We made sure that we had no containers on the canvas before we started the dashboard. So I'm asking, so before we do any dashboard, we must first of all remove all the containers. Then we'll now change to floating, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I just hit a new dashboard button here, and you can see I'm already in floating mode because my last dashboard was made in floating, and I have no containers on here.
Okay.
But then we also have to remember, you can see that this white canvas is, a lot smaller than my screen width. We always have to remember to put this to automatic so that it takes up the entire range. But if we do click the tiled button, then yeah, you're right. It might, for now, I don't have anything, but if I bring over blank, then yeah, you'll have a container like this. And if I click remove, you just want to make sure you get rid of all the containers before you go into floating.
Okay, that's what. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. You got it. No, good questions. Good questions. Any other questions before we move forward with continuing on? These are great. Just like clearing up some of these small things that are little details. I mean, Tableau has a lot of those little hidden options and menu items where you can right-click on something and you know, you didn't know that it was there or that it was an option or that was how you did it. So, you know, I think the thing with Tableau is once you know where all those hidden menus are and all of those options, you have so much more control and customizability over Power BI. Whereas Power BI, it offers you a really quick, you know, drag and drop interface where you can get sort of the basics going. But if you really wanted to customize where these labels were sitting, or if you wanted to, you know, change the color or the size of these things depending on the values, it would be a lot more difficult. You'd have to write some custom functionality to do some of that, whereas Tableau, it kind of comes as part of those features. Great. Okay, cool. So we're going to build something that we kind of made in Tableau here, or sorry, in Power BI. I don't know if I have it in this file, but we created, let me see if I can find it. Power BI. We created something with a rolling average line in Power BI with the built-in analytics. And we also created, you'll remember in Power BI, in the last week, we covered how to use the clustering algorithm that was built into Power BI. And it's kind of hidden. It was in those top 3 dots. I don't think this is the file for it. No. Let's see. Just give me 1 minute here. It'll be a lot easier to explain once I've got it open. No. Oh, maybe it's in here. It was in here. Here we go. Yeah. So we created this chart in Power BI where we had the actuals in the purple lines, and then we had this rolling average that was, you know, the month before and the month after, and we differentiated between the two with a dashed line and a dot. Now, I think some people were asking, you know, is there a way when there's an overlap like this, 481,000 and 454,000, is there a way to move that so that they're easier to see? So, you know, you can see that the line and the marker, everything gets so jumbled together here. It's a lot more difficult to differentiate between the numbers. There isn't in Power BI that I'm aware of, but in Tableau there is, and I'll show you how to do that today. So we're going to create a chart very similar to this with a rolling average line through the analytics. And then there's also, we did this, customer segmentation analysis in Power BI. And remember, that was through the 3 little dots where you could go like this, or sorry, this is just the summary, but on the visual, once we brought this in, we were able to go to the, it wasn't hidden in the analytics tab, it was actually in the 3 little dots at the top right where you could go to cluster, and then it broke it into 5 different groups. So we had this guy, Sean Miller, all over on his own, and we could specify the amount of groups we wanted. So we're going to also create something like this in Tableau as well. And we'll see the differences with the customizability that we have in Tableau. So let's jump over to Tableau. We'll make a new we'll make a new sheet, a new worksheet here. So I'm actually on a dashboard. Let me close that. I'll do new worksheet. Okay, and we're going to bring in, let me see, it's going to be our sales, our sum of sales, and our month order date. So we're going to go find our sum of sales, bring it up to rows, and month order date. So we're going to change it from year here to month. There we go. And again, we can change our width from standard to entire view, so it just stretches nicely. And we're going to bring in a filter on the year and color on the measure names. So we're going to filter the year so that we can choose 1 year at a time. Let's see if I can find it. Years, next. I'll just choose 2017. All right. And measure names on color. There we go. So we've got sales actuals. And we can also turn on the mark labels. I mean, you can do them down here, but you can also click this button, and that'll just show the numbers at each point or at each mark on the visual, so we can see the actual data. That's just this button right up here. So we'll turn those on. Okay.
When I bring in measure names, instead of sales actuals, it's coming up as sales.
Like this one here, sales actuals.
What year did you choose from the year? Did 2014?
I did 2017, I think, for my year. So when you bring sales in,
Which data set are you using? My data set ends in 2014.
Oh, what data set am I using here? Let's go to my data source. Sample Superstore. It doesn't matter. You can do 2014. Our data sets might be a little bit different.
Okay.
It won't make a big difference. Like, you'll still get the main idea here. I can change it to 2014. We can even make this like a custom value list. Let's see here. $2014, sure. Actually, I want to make it show up on the right-hand side here again. So we did that last week. Show filter, there we go, yeah. So if you just click this little arrow, you can show the filter, or I think you can just right-click on this. It's the same thing. And then we can change this from being a checkbox selection to, if we just click this little down arrow, we have a lot of options. We can do single value lists, single value drop down, a slider, multiple value drop down, multiple value list. I like single value drop down, so then you can just select from the list here. Now your measure name, you said when it came through, it says sales actuals, or sorry, it just says sales. Okay, that's fine. That's fine. My data set might just be a little bit different. And then we're going to bring sum of sales in again here. Right, so we have 2. And then in this drop down, we're going to add a quick table calculation, and we're going to do the moving average of sales. Right, so one of them will be the actual sales, and then one of them will be that moving average. So just click here, and you can see how this moves. It changed our label to moving average of sales. I can even just edit these names, I think, Sean. If I double click it, I think, oh, maybe not. I don't think it's a big deal, but you'll notice when we do that and we put a calculation, it made 2 charts here, but we also got 2 sets of marks, right? And you can go to the all, but we have marks for just this one, which is the sum of our sales for this top page, right? So, you know, we can change the color of this one. We can edit the color so that it's more of a blue theme on the top. I think I could change, is it the label here? If I want to change the label from sales actuals to just sales, or maybe it's the detail. And then if we wanted to change the color of this one with the little calculation, that would change the moving average here. And we have measure names on both. All right, now we need to combine these somehow. We need to combine them so that they're both on the same chart. So how do you think we do that? Does anyone know? Right, we want them to be overlapped like what we did here in Power BI on this chart. We want them to be shared on the same axis. So we'll come here, and the way you do that is in this little drop down, there's this option called dual axis. And what dual axis is going to do is it's going to put an axis on the left for one of the measures and an axis on the right for the other. So I'll click this, it'll combine the lines, and you'll notice this one says 82,000, so it corresponds with the left axis. But here's our dual axis, right? Because dual means 2 axes. So we have one y-axis here that goes up to 85 and one up here that goes to 65. So you can see my red line, it goes to 65. The problem with this is that they're not scaled proportionally, right? Because this 64,000, even though it's right on this axis, it almost looks like it's matching with this 82,000. But we don't want to compare them this way because 64,000 isn't equal to 82,000. So what we can do is we can right click on this axis, and there's this Synchronized Axis button that will just sync them to a 1-to-1 ratio, and it will make the 65,000 go down to the 65,000 here. So the highest point on our red line should come back down to about 2/3 or 3/4 of the way up once we click this Synchronized Axis. So I just right click on this Synchronized Axis, and it'll just bring that line, that red line, down. Right, and now we still have 2 axes, but they're the same now. So this one's 85, this one's 85. So we could actually get rid of one of these. Edit this axis. Let's see if we can get rid of this one here. There you go. I just clicked the show header button and it goes away. So if you right click on it and there's this show header, it'll go away. All right, and so just like that, we've got two lines going up, and we can change the color of these. We can change the path of these, so we can make them, you know, dotted, or we can make them, you know, different styles of lines. Let's see if we can play around with that a little bit. We've got our mark labels, tooltip, size, color. Change the markers a little bit. Edit the colors. I'm gonna make the color a little bit more faded in the moving average. There we go. Let's see if we can do a dashed line for one of these for the moving average. So let's see. If I go to format, let's see where we do dash lines. Just missing the just forgetting where this option is right now. Okay, so they're not actually supported out of the box. You have to add a bit of custom code to do dashed lines, but we can see if we can figure it out here. Hey, how's it going? Come on in. I'm gonna edit the labels too a little bit. I'm gonna make them a little bit bigger. So I'm gonna make them about 10 font, bold, and maybe we'll match the mark color as well. Oh, and I'll do that on both here. So just make it a little bit bigger, bold, match mark color. Now, what I was talking about earlier about if one of these is overlapping, right? So we've got the 28,000 and the 30,000. There's not really any videos that cover how to do this. This is just something that I know from the guy who taught this course before me. And if you have this overlap of these two numbers, you can just click and drag, just like that, and it moves the 30,000 up, out of the way. It's
what if you have like 1,000 values, hundreds of 1,000 values?
Well, if you had 1,000 values, you wouldn't be showing all of them on the screen because it wouldn't look. You wouldn't be able to read them anyways. So like here, this is for an entire year, so we only have 12 months, and there might be like a couple months where they overlap a little bit. But if you had a set of data that large, it wouldn't be efficient to even show that much data anyways. So yeah, you won't really have that problem. Here, even this 9,000, we can just click and drag. Oops. Just click and drag. How did I do it? Just gotta make sure you're clicking in the right spot. There you go. Select it and then bring it up. There you go. Right, so you can't do that in Power BI, but in Tableau, we can make sure our visuals are nice and all the labels are exactly where we want them to be. Even this little 47,000, I'll just move it up here. Just to make it look a little bit cleaner, right? Even if you want to bring it over to the right a little bit so that it's not getting overlapped by any of the lines. And I like that. $25, $50. That looks pretty clean.
Can we assign degrees for the labels? Like you do 45 degrees.
Like rotate it?
Yeah. Because once previous semester, I guess I tried that one and they were overlapping, so I set a 45 or 45 degrees or something.
To
not overlap, but I don't.
That's interesting. Yeah. Let's see. Labels. Alignment. I know we can change the alignment here. So if you want them to face up, you can rotate them 90 degrees or down or just straight. But to rotate each individual one.
I guess it was on Excel because,
yeah.
But, this tablet.
Let's see. I don't know if there's a really quick way to rotate. Let's see if we can rotate. Rotate label on the desired header label. If we right click on it.
It's not possible, I guess. 2 years ago,
That's for a header label, but
I guess it's not possible. I'll check.
yeah, if I see a way to do it, but not that I know of. They've this guy says they've chosen not to do it. That was 7 years ago, though. They've chosen not to implement that feature.
Even 2 years ago, they asked for this feature, I guess.
Oh, still? Yeah. Okay. So there you go. Not possible, but we can at least move them around. So you just click the mark or the label point, and then you can drag and drop them around. So the next thing that we can do that's kind of cool. So we've got our chart like this, and this is pretty similar to the one that we had in Power BI, is we can now annotate specific things where there might be points of interest. So something like September here, where we have our sales actuals and we have the highest number of sales, we can right click this point and we can go annotate mark, and we can get rid of this, and then we can type something like back to school sale. And now we've got this label, this mark that goes with that, just as a point of interest, right? And we could have something like I don't know, what would March be? March break. We could annotate this point. March break. This could be our March break bonanza. Who knows? Whatever, as a company, right, if you have certain things, certain sales that happen at a time of year, then you could put those on there and instantly draw attention to those points. And then we could have something like in November, there could be, this one's our next highest sale. This could be like our Black Friday sale. Right, now let's bring that up. Or we could bring it over here even. Perfect. Right, I'll just make sure this one is also all bolded. There you go. Nice. And that's a pretty easy way to do that with the dual axis and then synchronizing those axes together. So we've got something that's kind of similar, and then we could just give our sheet or our title. We could say this is our sales, actuals, and sales moving average by year, right? Because they've got the filter up here where they can choose the year, and this can change. So I'll take that title, also rename my sheet so that it's the same. And then we can, as a user, we can go in here, we can change 2014. Obviously, the labels, you know, if you had the same sale every year, then they would correspond with those months. So if you had the same monthly sales, and then we can see like our back to school and our Black Friday sales, or you could just say Christmas. You could just say things that happen at those times of years, and the data will change accordingly. Cool. All right. I'll leave this open like that for a second. Any questions about that? Is everyone able to get it to that point?
I'm not able to exactly label as.
Oh, okay. What is yours showing as?
It's just showing the number.
Oh, like exactly. So if you go into label here, and then I'm already on format, so I'm going to get out of this. If we go to label.
2014? Is that 2014?
Yeah, no, 2013. You should be able to format it if you go show mark labels. If you right click the point and then go format. Let's see, mine's not even showing it for me. What's yours look like?
I did it for this as format.
Yeah, the display units thousands. Yeah, that's what
But it's not working.
And which one did you do that on? Some sales or?
On this one.
Format. Let's see. Yeah. So it's formatting it's formatting the axis correctly, like you have the thousands, but then your actual labels. Interesting. Okay. And can you click one of the points like the, yeah, and right click? Format.
Yeah, this one will be
And then instead of sheet, click in rows or columns.
yeah, it's
No, there's nothing here. You're on automatic there. Here. Oh, go back. Yeah, so you can change it from numbers with a few things. Numbers there are numbers.
Yeah.
So that was just on the pane option.
So we go to the. Oh, like it says access for access
Yeah.
and it's expensive.
So many different sub menus.
What is the second some sales? Recursive calculation, but which
That's the same. They're the same. So you came up in here to do this. Format. See, I don't even have, okay, so then you change the field to the one you want to format. And then in pane,
same.
mine is automatic, currency, custom, 2 decimal places, thousands. There you go. Mine just defaulted to the right one though, for some reason.
I think you might have changed it before.
There you go. Cool. Yeah, these are just the same fields, sum of sales, sum of sales. And then earlier in class, we just did split axis and then we synchronized them.
Can't overlap the lines.
Yeah, you just have to click down here and then dual axis.
Okay.
Yeah, we just did that earlier in class. Oh, sorry, missed the chat here. How can I get rid of the moving average axis? I just missed that part. So, Tin, what you'll do is, let me see if I can actually turn it back on. Moving average axis. I don't even know how to turn that back on. I already hit it. You basically right-click Tin like this, and then you just unclick Show Header. On the one you're gonna want to get rid of. Yeah, you got it. There should be a button to bring back the header for that axis. Like so here I'm on sum of moving average sum of sales axis, and I should be able to bring it back here. But I've actually got it hidden right now. So there we go. Okay, cool. So we'll do the clustering one next, but we'll take, this would be a good spot to take a little 10-minute break. So you can go stretch your legs. We'll come back just after 10 after 11, and then we'll continue with the clustering. All right. So you guys can hear me again, see my screen on Teams, and you guys should be able to see my screen here. Okay. So we're gonna now try to build what we built in Power BI in the customer segmentation analysis here, where we had our profit and our sales on a scatter plot, and then we've got 5 different segments or 5 different clusters automatically generated by the visualization by Power BI, except we're going to do it in Tableau now. So I've just made another new worksheet here in the bottom right. And right away, we know we're going to name this customer segmentation analysis. And that'll change the title as well. All right, and we're just going to do sales by profits. It's going to be the exact same. So we find our sales going along the rows and our profits. Actually, I think it's the other way around. Sales on columns, rows is profits. And we always do entire view so that it fits our entire desktop. Right? And right now it's showing our sum of all of our sales by a sum of all of our profits. And we want to divide it by customer name. So we are going to put customer name on the label. And as the second you do that, it's now divided everything by each customer. And we have however many customers here. We've got Sean Miller again. And over here we had Sean Miller. So it looks pretty similar. And if we wanted to try divide it by color, by customer name, right? That's not very helpful because now we've got an individual color for each customer that exists in our data set. And that's not really going to do anything for us because we don't want to see them as individuals. We want to see them as groups. So I'll just undo that. And what we can do, what do you think we can do? See if you guys can find what we're going to use to group these together. It was kind of hidden in the Power BI when we did it. It was in those 3 little dots on the graph. I would say it's not as hidden in Tableau, but see if you can peruse around and find the tool for the cluster analytics. Any ideas? Don't want to filter. So there's this tab up here, analytics. So it brings us a whole other, yeah, there we go. So we've got this cluster option, this cluster model, and we can use this. We can drag and drop onto our chart here, and you'll see we've got only one option to create a cluster. So I'm going to do that. It's going to automatically cluster them. You can see it's automatic at first. So we get 2 clusters. Basically, we get this blue group, cluster 1, and this orange group, cluster 2. And we can close that, and that's fine. It's 2 clusters. And we can also change the size of these depending on the amount of the sale, right? So we could bring sum of sales into size, and then we can make it really big, really small. right? And then you can see the size difference here. For a much larger sale like this, it's about 50,000, whereas down here, these tiny little ones, maybe that's too big. Yeah. All right, and if we want more than 2 clusters, all we got to do is just come into this clusters and edit the clusters. We can also describe the clusters. So if you come into the describe clusters, you can see here we've got 2 clusters. It tells us the amount of points, the sum of squares error. So if you're taking the machine learning section in business intelligence right now, you would have heard this, sum of squares error. The total sum of squares, and then the number of items in each cluster. And if we wanted to, we could see the scaled centers as well. And then here we can see our F statistics and our p-values and all of that good stuff, machine learning. Now, if we wanted more than 2 clusters, say we want to match the Power BI one, I think it has 5. Then here we can see we've got 5. We can edit the colors so that they match. So we've got Sean Miller, and I think Ken Lonsdale is actually part of Sean Miller's group. We can go back into describe the clusters here, and we can see cluster 5. Yeah, it has 2 people there, so that's kind of cool.
What does negative profit mean?
It means that we had a lot of sales, but he probably only bought stuff that was on sale below our cost margins. So yeah, both Ken and Sean, they spent the most money, but Ken was actually profitable with $1,600 of profit, but Sean, man, we did not make money on him.
$1,000.
Yeah, really the best spot of this square to be is in the top right. So we've made a lot of money, a lot of profit on you, and a lot of sales. And then down here, yeah, we lost a lot of.
The next one should be the one on the
top left,
top left.
yeah, technically.
He sold the less.
Yeah, made the most. Yeah, so like maybe some of these people here. Now Cindy, I don't know how. We only did $11,000 of sales, but we lost $13,000. It's terrible. But yeah, so very similar to, I mean, if I pull this up beside, oh, that doesn't really work. I'll just go between the 2. So we've got this one and we've got this one. You can see the similarities. The groupings are a little bit different. I think, but that's because this is average of sales and average of profit. So if we want to do that, we could change it to, instead of sum, we could change it to the average of sales and the average of profit. And then maybe we could remove these clusters and then reapply the cluster. And do 5. There we go. And the size should be on average. Now that doesn't look very similar. It might actually be a different data set that I'm using between the 2. But let's see. Clusters 2. Format legends. Now there should be a way too, as well, if we wanted to change it from saying cluster 1 here to an actual specific group. Oh, that's just to highlight the cluster, which is kind of cool. You can also do that just by clicking within a group. But if we wanted to actually change the legends, we should be able to rename these. Edit title. Customer segments. There we go. So now that says customer segments, and then the here we'll change that to customer segments. Okay. And I still have the title. Format legends. Oh, maybe that's why it's giving us a bit of a weird. I'm going to change this to average. There we go. Now the clusters are going to be a lot cleaner. I had some on average and some on sum, but I can actually just remove this one as well. And then it's going to look a lot similar, more similar to our. Yeah, sorry, I did average of everything, yeah. And then I can change the size to be a little bit bigger on these ones.
What did you change?
So if you come down here into clusters, I just did edit clusters, and then I had 3 variables in mine, and you just need to make sure that you only have 2 and that they're both the average of the profit and the average of the sales.
That's how you.
I just changed the size. I changed the title to customer segments. And then to actually change the name, I think what we'd have to do is save each cluster as a group, and then right click on the group and then edit the group in a partition, because apparently in Tableau right now it's not currently possible to actually rename each partition of the cluster through the legend. So you'd have to see how you would do it. Right click, save the clusters as a group. Yeah, it might just be advantageous to keep them as cluster 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, just for ease of use for whoever's viewing this dashboard. But yeah, there we go. So comparing that to this one in Power BI, there we go. And I think also if we want to get this little summary, can we do that? Can we annotate? I know that that's something that Power BI specifically is really good at. It's this explain data button, but we have it actually grayed out on this chart, so I don't think we can use that on this one. I wonder if yeah, it's not an option for us right now, actually. All right. So that's the customer segmentation analysis chart. Did everyone get up to this point? Yeah, did it work for you? Did it work for you? Yeah. People in Microsoft Teams online, any questions about that? Need me to go over anything to get back to this point? Show a thumbs up if you guys got that chart working. Okay, show a thumbs down if you didn't get the chart working. I don't see any thumbs. Yeah, Israel.
Well, mine is not perfect years. I'm gonna go through the recording.
Say that again, sorry.
I said that mine is not perfect yet. I intend to go through the recording.
Yeah, anything I can help you with?
I don't think so. I think I can go through recording and fix it up.
Okay, perfect. And
Thank you.
Oluwale, yeah, you're welcome. Oluwale is asking, where's the far right person? So you're looking for Sean Miller. So here, Sean Miller was 132 profit and 2K in sales. In the other data set, Sean Miller was 700 in sales and $8 in profit. So it looks like it's actually a different data set. This is for, what year was this for? I don't know if we had any filters on this. This is for all years. This is for all years. So it could just be that it's a different data set, Oluwale, and you know, it looks like Sean Miller's still far over here, but the numbers might just not match up exactly. Right, cool. Alrighty, and next one. What I want to show you. Oh, this was another version of the clusters. Did that one, we did that one. Oh, okay. I'm gonna get you guys to do this. So similar to what we did this morning where we had to do a dual axis. You can tell it's a dual axis because of this, where the pill, it's not its own separate pill, it actually has a square between it, whereas something like, what's another example? These are all, they're not their own rounded corners, they're actually combined, and that's why so there's two charts going on here, and that's how I'm getting, this is called a lollipop chart. So you get like the stick, and then you have the dot at the end that brings your focus to the final number, which is the 448,000 here, or 660,000. So I want you to try to see if you can make this chart very similar to what we had made this morning with the 2 lines, and then we did a dual axis. Here, instead of 2 lines, you're going to do, you can see here, one is a bar chart and one is a circle. All right, so see if you can figure that out. They're both sum of sales, but we've got our own marks on them. It's kind of the cool thing with Tableau that you can't really do in Power BI, where you can just combine different types of charts and create these marks, and then you have a lot more options at the end of the day. Do you need me to dim the lights at the front? Is it, or can you guys see that okay? Do that. That's better. There you go. Very good. So some sales, subcategory. Nice. Yeah. So look on my subcategory. See that little icon? There you go. You did data source order. And then there you go. So you're sorting by sum of sales, and then I've got my marks, my labels as thousands. Yeah.
Oh, so there you go. I guess I have to overlap this too, but
Yeah. So you do what we did with the line this morning. So go into that menu, yeah. Relax.
yeah.
Right, but then look what happened to your marks. They're both circle graphs. So I'm going to change one back to bar graph. Automatic. There you go.
It's downsides.
Yeah. And you can change the size of the bar graph too. And you're on standard right now for your width. Make sure you're always on entire view. Right up there in the top toolbar. Just gonna go over there, top tool. What's the standard? Yeah. There you go. So switch it down. So you can shrink your bar width, your bar graph width as well. Do size on the bar chart. There you go. That's what I like. Nice.
How do you remove this?
So yes, you can right click it, I believe.
If I do it from here, it's easy.
I see. Yeah, so you want to, so when you right click it there, I thought I saw the option. When you right click it on the very bottom one. Yeah. I think that's pretty much exactly what I have. Nice. And you could even do color for like, the most sales to the least. So you're doing pain right now. There you go. Nice. You get rid of this thing, this title, where it says subcategories. Right click that, and the very bottom, the very bottom option. Yeah. And that's it.
This looks good, but this
So can you just drag it? Oh, you did allow overlap. No, don't allow overlap. That little checkbox. No on the other one. Bar graph. Label.
this is the second one. Just this.
Yeah, line right. Yeah, that's up. Yeah, it's this one. Yeah, there you go. That's pretty good. You can even get rid of, I don't even have sales on the top. Like this word, sales. I actually have it on the bottom, right? Because it's dual axis. There you go. Perfect. And you sync, you did, well, I guess it would be synced, yeah. It's a color. So yeah, try doing a little color band as well. Awesome. How's everyone online doing? Did you guys figure it out? On Teams? Were you able to make this chart? Yeah, Israel?
No. No.
No? Okay, we'll walk through it.
Okay, thanks. Okay, thanks.
This looks good.
Sweet. Okay, so we're gonna make it now. We're gonna make this lollipop chart, sales by subcategory. So I will make a new worksheet here, and I'll just rename it sales by, I think I should actually be in my other Tableau file to do this. It doesn't matter. Sales by subcategory. All right, I'm gonna get some help here. So we're gonna do sum of sales up here, going across, and this is fine, it's on automatic right now, and I'm gonna bring another sum of sales. Now notice it made two charts here, and they're separate pills, right? They've got rounded corners here, they're not joined. And we wanna divide them on the rows coming down by subcategory. So now we go like this, all right? It's sorted right now by the subcategory alphabetically, right? And notice I've got bar chart and a bar chart. So when I bring two measures in, two green pills, it's going to create two marks here when I have two green pills on the columns. And because they're both automatic right now, it's just doing bar charts. But I can specify bar chart for this one on the left. And then if I click the second mark, I can specify a circle chart on the right, right? So now I've got a bar chart, circle chart, and basically we're going to combine these. Before I combine them though, it'd be nice to get them sorted. So we're going to click this little down arrow, whoops, this little down arrow here on the rows, and we're going to sort it. Instead of sorting it by the data source, we're going to sort it by the field. And we don't want the smallest sale first, we want descending by sales sum, right? So here we've got our bar, and here we've got our lollipop, right? So we can just close this, they're sorted. Now, very similarly to how we created the line, the moving average line with the dual axis, we're gonna do that. Yeah, Artem.
I just have a question. How you add that second category on the left?
This one on the right?
No. The one did how you did scatter plot combining the two charts.
This one here?
Yeah.
So, excuse me, when I bring in sum of sales and I bring in a second sum of sales, okay, like I can remove this right now. I'll just have one bar chart and all my marks like color, size, any of that stuff is going to affect this one. But if I bring in a second green pill on the columns, watch what happens. So I drag sales up into here. It's going to create two marks. So there's sum of sales and then sum of sales 2, right? And it's going to create two bar charts. And then I can specify, instead of this one being a bar chart, I can make it a circle chart, right?
Oh, okay. Okay, so
Sweet.
I get it now.
Now to combine them, it's pretty easy. We just hit that down arrow and then we do dual axis. And you can kind of see, if I hover over it, you can see my bar and then you can see that circle. So now we just have to play around with the sizing. Yeah, Artem.
Yes. I get it. I just didn't put my hand down.
Perfect. No worries.
Thank you.
So we can see our bar chart. Yeah, you're welcome. This bar chart is way too big and the circle's way too small. And you can see we did dual axis. And when we did that, these two green pills combined. So there's no longer two rounded corners. It's now got a straight line between, almost like these are combined because they've been combined into one graph. So I've got sales on the bottom going up to 650,000, and I've also got a sales axis on the top. So I can get rid of this one because I don't need both. So I can just, where is it? Remove the axis, yeah, with show header. Right, and now we just have this one in the bottom. Now, I'm forgetting to do entire view here. So make sure you're doing entire view and it will stretch down. So we can see the circles, we can see the bars. We have one sales axis here, one sales axis here. So make sure you're on your bar chart and just bring the size way down on the bars. Make them real skinny so they look like lollipop sticks. And then we can select our other marks, which is our circle graph, and we can make the size way bigger, like that, right? So we're getting closer. We've got our sticks and our lollipops. Now we just need to show the values over here on the right-hand side. And then we need to get rid of this little title right here. So to show the values, we want to show the values of these, right? Well, we want to show, I guess it's technically the same thing. We want to show the values of. So on our circle, we can click label, show mark labels, and there's going to be our totals. Mine's automatically in thousands, but if yours isn't, then you can just right click, format. Sorry, that's formatting the font. You should be able to format it. I always am forgetting how to get there.
From the top, the column.
Yeah. Format right there, and then make sure you're in the pane, and then you can format the numbers to currency. For me, the automatic one is nice. It goes right to the thousands automatically. And then to get rid of this little title, we just have to hide field labels for the rows. And then it gets rid of it. We get a little bit more space. If you wanted to, we could add a color scheme. So we could just add, you know, on sum of sales, we could add color, and now it's going to have this range, and we can edit it so that it's the other way around. Or we can just pick one of these custom blue and teal ones. There you go. And you can apply the same color setting to the other marks, right? Because they're just going to stay gray.
We can just add it to all.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's a good point, actually. Thank you. So I can remove this one. And then, so we have this marks and this marks. So if we want to individually impact each of these graphs, or you can go into the all category, and this will impact all of the charts on the screen. So we could bring the sales there. Thanks to Sean. And just like that, there you go. I think that's it, right? Is there any steps I'm missing? All right, did everyone get that working on Teams?
Yeah, I'm just wondering. What did they order the month by? Is it month?
If you wanted to do it by month?
No, the sales you did. I mean the subcategory. What did you sort it by?
It's sorted by, okay, yeah. So if you go up into here, you can tell I've got a sorting on because of that little icon above my mouse. And if I click the little down arrow, you can see that that's the same icon here on the sort. And if I click it, I've sorted it by field, descending, which is the field name sales, and I've aggregated it by the sum.
Okay. Thank you.
I've got one thing wrong on this chart. I've got this label here that's on the wrong side. It just is too squished to fit, so it just wants to pop onto the left. So what we can do is we can just come into our labels, and this is the one that we've got turned on right now. And we can just format, alignment. Yeah, there we go. This one. If I click the right side, now it's going to pop over up there. You can click this too. That'll only be if there's other marks showing on the page, but yeah, there we go. Now everything's on the right side.
You can also sort when you go to the sales, the title on the bottom.
Yeah.
There is a sort.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you can change. You can just invert. Go through the options here if you wanted to sort alphabetically, but it keeps the color, which is interesting. That's cool. Very neat. Great. So this is a good spot for another break.
Benjamin, just
yeah, Artem,
for have a break. Would you mind repeating how you combine the charts together? Just trying to find that out.
repeating how to combine the two charts.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you click here, and you click this dual axis button.
Oh, okay. Excellent.
Does that work for you? No worries. Did that work for you, Artem?
I'm just trying to find the dual axis. Oh, yes. Perfect.
Cool.
Yeah, it
Sweet.
worked. Excellent.
Awesome. You're welcome. Okay, so we'll just take a 10-minute break and then we'll get back into it. Okay, we are going to get into the last last session of this module here. And so I'm going to show you what we'll be building. Let me share my screen. You guys should be able to see this as well. Okay. So this is called a control chart, and it isn't actually necessarily like a really great thing to use for sales, because it shows you there's a lower limit and an upper limit, right? And it shows you anything that's out of range. So this would actually be something that'd be really good to use for your assignments, where it's like you're trying to stay between, say, a certain heart rate, or you have like a lower limit and upper limit for your resting heart rate, or it could be like a certain amount of steps where you have your lower limit of steps, so you want to get at least 5,000 steps a day, but well, maybe that's a bad example. Maybe you don't want to go above 15,000 steps because then you're going to be too tired for the rest of the week. Or calories, right? You want to eat at least 1,500 calories, but you don't want to eat more than 3,000 because then you're going to gain too much weight. So here we have our upper control limit of 88,000 sales. Now with sales, typically you wouldn't want to say like, oh my goodness, we're over 88,000, what a problem, because that's not a bad thing to make more sales. That's why it doesn't necessarily work with this data set, but I'm just going to show you how to make it. So we have an upper limit and a lower limit, and anything that's out of it, we can see is changed color. Now we've done that before where we change the color depending on a condition, and here's our mean, here's our average, right? But this is where this chart's different. We have this option on the right-hand side called 1, 2, or 3 standard deviations, and if I click them, as they move, you can see this now is no longer out of that control limit, so dynamically it's changed its color, whereas this one is still outside. And if I go to 3 standard deviations, now it scales the graph up, and this is now 3 steps away from our average, right? So we can go 1, 2, or 3. And dynamically, those standard deviations are changing the color filter for this line, right? So there's a couple condition statements that we have to write that I'll show you. And then, you know, to make this line chart is pretty easy. It's just your sales by month, but it's a little bit of code behind the scenes to make these work, right? So pretty cool. Something you could use with your assignment. Before we get into that though, that's going to be the last chart we build of the day. I want you to build this. So we have done a pie chart, right? We've done this by ship mode, but this is different. This is a donut chart. All right, so how do we build a donut chart? And you'll notice up at the top here, we've got 2 pills, but notice that they're not actually pill shaped. They're joined here, right? Which means dual axis. So I want to see if you guys can figure out how to get a pie chart, or sorry, not pie, a donut, because donuts are tastier than pie. Get a donut chart. All right, so ACG that is our oh, here you go. Here you can see all the marks now for this one at least. That's our ship mode. So we've got sum of sales on color, sum of sales on size, or sorry, angle, ship mode on the label, sum of sales on the label, and then sum of sales with the calculation as a percentage on the label. All right. And if we look at this one, the second one, it's also a pie chart. It just has sum of sales on the label. All right, so that's this one in the middle. If we look at the label, you can see it's been formatted to have that.
AG is sales, right?
Yes, this, yeah. Is that right? The ACG or OAGG, it's the aggregated, aggregated sales, I believe. And if I come down into this one's dual axis. Yeah, so I think you just need, basically you don't need to bring something over to columns. You just need to start applying it to the marks. Right, so you can bring your sum of sales over here to color, angle, and then the labels.
And another one for sales.
Did that work for you, Nishan? So yeah, you just bring it there instead of bringing it up into the columns. It'll create what's called an aggregated column based off of the things that you're applying to these marks.
But I don't have anything in the bottom.
Oh, it didn't say anything for this? Maybe when did you bring all the label stuff in? Okay. Let's see. Excuse me, and then sales, okay. And then the other one, so we can now do a dual axis. So can you add some sales to columns? Add it twice. And then do dual axis. Okay. And then they're both high. And then minus continuous double
Continuous already good. I don't see anything that says KG aggregate. Like not average, but it says KG.
Okay. Let's see here. see if I can show this.
Maybe it's a different calculated field of values in the equation.
Can you just type this? Like that? You just do square bracket 1. So we're just giving a blank, right? And that should add like a circle to your chart. Did that work? Because if I do this, if I type in here, and I hit enter, see it should do this.
No, don't type sum. Oh, get rid of the sums, that's all. Get rid of that. So it's a fresh and start there. So you might have to clear all of these first. Yeah, that's okay.
I think you created there's something called one.
Is there another? Let's see.
Oh yes. So this is a custom calculation, and it's just a placeholder value basically. That's going to be 1. So min 1, and it just allows you to manipulate. So thanks to Shock. Did not remember that. So we just create a right-click calculated field, right? And then we just called it 1. Whoops. And it's just the min 1. And then you can just do square bracket 1 inside the columns at the top. And then that should be pretty straightforward from there. There you go. So that just allows us to create like a blank placeholder value that we can apply all of those properties to. So now I'll go into my AGG1 so you can see all the settings. I'll remove that. So you apply all of these to that one, and then you'll do the dual axis. Same thing. The second one is just the total sales, yeah. So it should be, well, yeah. So take away the percentage one, yeah. I just deleted it like down there. Oh, that's true. Okay, perfect. And now, perfect. So now you just need to combine. Yep. And then I added some custom. I said total sales in Poland. So you combine more. And when you did the second one, though, for the second one. Oh, the second one shouldn't have the same things. So the second one, get rid of the calculated sum of sales and then color sum of sales. Keep the bottom one this bigger. Keep that one. These ones? No, just the bottom. Go get rid of ship mode and get rid of sum of sales with the triangle. Okay. And then right. And then in the second one, it should just be some sales and then edit that label. Show mark labels. And then in the text, So you have this, and then you got to do dual axis, right? On the second one. A little bit down there on the second one. Dual axis. No, didn't do it exactly as expected. Pretty much, and then you got to change some color, right?
Outside of the size and this one, so
Yeah. Well, you can make it bigger too. So bring on the size. You have it.
It's not showing the values.
So try to undo the dual axis and get them both looking the same way. Yeah. Now maybe.
You know, it's not showing the values.
Oh. Okay. Look into that, Marks. So some cells. Do you have a filter on? No, you don't. Should lower. Some cells. That's weird. Does your data have some of the sales for?
Yep, it will run this more.
Okay. Maybe undo it a little bit.
This working.
We'll walk through it here though. All right. Okay, so did anyone get it working in Teams?
No.
I think we got one in class here. Yeah. Israel? Close?
Not yet. I'm still working on it.
No worries. Okay, so we're gonna make a new worksheet here, and I'll just call this donut chart. All right, and I'm just gonna bring in these things. So first, we need to create a new calculated field here on the right, which I already have. So create a calculated field. You got it? Nice. And in our calculated field, it's just going to be min1, so just a placeholder value. And then I can bring this up into here, and I can bring two of them. All right, I'm going to make sure that they're both pie charts, so they look like this. And we can get rid of these axes, so we can get rid of show header on both. Okay, so we've got AGG1, AGG1, 2 for our separate marks here. So on the first one, we're going to bring in sum of sales on color. So now we've got color. We're going to bring in sum of sales on the angle. We're going to bring in ship mode on the label. So now we've got first class, second class. You can see my actuals there, my sales values. And then we're going to bring in sum of sales on the label. So we've got values. And then we're going to bring in another sum of sales on the label. But this one, oops. Sorry, sum of sales on the label. But this one's got to have a calculation. It's going to be the sum. And this one, I'm sorry, there's got to be a difference between these two here, sorry. The one's the percentage, right? Yeah. Percent of total across. So I'm going to do this one as my add table calculation, percent of total across. There we go. So now I've got 59%. And I'm going to bring my sum of sales in again on the label, and there's 703,000. So we've got all the values. I'm going to change my view here to entire view so that they're not as tiny. And then on the right, I still got just like a blank circle. Okay. And on the right here, we just basically want to show total sales 4 million, right? So all we need here is sum of sales on our second aggregate. So I'm going to bring sum of sales. I'm going to go into my second marks, sum of sales on the label, and there we go. But we're going to edit this one a little bit. So we're going to make it say total sales, and we're going to make the font a little bit bigger, maybe 11, and make it bold. Hit OK. Now all we have to do is play with the size of these, right? And the color, I guess. So we can make this one white, so it's a white circle. Now, actually, I'll keep it light gray for now, just so that you can see it. And we're going to change the size so it's a little bigger. And then on my first aggregate, we're going to change the size of this one so it's like almost the max, right? Not almost the max, maybe like 3/4 of the way, like this. And basically, I'm going to bring this circle over to fill in, and it's going to make a donut, right? So basically, when I go dual axis like this, that circle has now come in, and if I make that circle white, the same color as the background, it looks like a donut. And we just change that size. You can make it a really thin donut if you want. And then we can also change the label of our top one here by making them all in one line. So we can have ship mode, and then we can do our percent of sales, and then we can say, we could have maybe like a colon in between the two so that they're on the same line. Maybe not, maybe just empty space, right? And we can also bold the ship mode, because maybe that's what's important here. Make it a little bit bigger. And we can make the inside text even bigger here, right? Because we've got enough room to do that. So I can make it 14 font. And I can even, if I want to, on my second circle, I can even format the numbers so that it's in millions. Right, so I can go to currency, custom, here, currency, custom, and we can go to millions. It's not showing. Format. Numbers, currency, custom. No. In here? Oh, we got to format this one. There we go. There's so many different ways to format. There we go. So we'll get rid of the 4.59 million. Perfect. Yeah, I just added a couple decimals there so we can see. And just like that, we've got a nice donut chart. And again, you can change the size so that if you want it to be like a bigger donut. So really, it's just a pie chart, and we're just overlapping something with the title here, right?
And we mix like 3 charts.
Mix 3 charts. Well, let's see. We could experiment with that really quickly. You could go like this. Oops. Bring this in, and then you could make this thing. I don't know. Yeah, I don't think there is an option. Because
lines to the charts percentages.
What's that?
Same day, but I would like to show which part is showing.
What do you mean?
From line, yeah, first class line, like dragging line, labels and charts.
Dragging lines between labels and the charts?
Yeah, it's like, yeah, it's first class, but which one? If you have multiple labels, like showing, yeah, this is showing, yeah, this is showing.
Oh, to have like an annotation or something? You could right click this and you could do mark. Sorry, you could do annotate, mark, and then you could do this, right? And now there's a line there, and you can edit this the way you want it.
Yeah.
Right? But this is pretty self-explanatory anyways with the lines there. I think there's probably a way too as well just to turn a line on from here, like trend lines, show not trend lines, drop lines maybe. There's going to be a way to turn it on in this when you right click on it. But all right, so we're going to run out of time here. So before we do, I want to show you how to do the out of range chart. So that's our donut chart. Pretty straightforward. How can I get the AGG column? Oh, sorry, Tin. So basically, it's a calculated field here. So you just do right click, create calculated field, call it 1, and then go min 1 like this and hit apply. This is going to give me errors because I already have something called that. Now it's fine. So I could go min 2, whatever. It's just a placeholder. Cool. So like all I've done is I've brought 1 over up into here, and now it's doing AGG1 like that. It's a placeholder, and you're just applying all of these marks to it. Okay. All right. So lastly, what do I want to create here? The monthly sales control chart.
This is also good for outliers.
Yeah, it's good for outliers. It's good for your health. So we're going to do a new worksheet here. Just do new worksheet, and we'll call it monthly sales control chart. This. And perfect. I'm going to shrink this a little bit, and we're going to go entire view so that it takes up the entire view. And it's pretty straightforward right off the bat. We're doing order date month for the columns, sum of sales, and measure values. We won't bring that in yet. So we're going to do order date month across the top. I'll do this one with you guys. So order date month, we just, from the drop down, select month, and then sum of sales going across. And we can filter our order date if we want. I actually want to filter it by a year. So I'm going to go filter, order date, years, next. Okay, we'll do 2014. All right, and we can show the filter on the right-hand side here so that we can change this to a drop-down list if we want. Okay. Now, you saw something there called measure values. Measure values is just something we have for measure names and measure values that will basically show anything that has a number sign here in our green pills section. So measure values, if you bring it over, it's going to show a number or a numeric value for your sales, your quantity, your profit, your discount. It's going to try to make something for everything. So if you watch, it's going to create a bunch of measures. It's not going to really look good. We can even get rid of this one. And it's going to create a different line. It just had my calculated 1 in there. But it's going to create a different line for each of our different measures, right? So we've got quantity, we've got profit, we've got sales. We don't want all of them, so I'm going to just remove this. And before I bring in measure values, I'm going to put a filter on the measure names. You can see it already added a filter on measure names because I had removed one of them. So I'm just going to remove all of that stuff. So if we bring measure values over, okay, we only want, oh, they're not even here yet. We have to create them. So I'll just undo that again. So we just have our month and our sum of sales. I'm playing around with you guys here. We're going to create a couple calculated fields and a parameter. So we're going to create a parameter first. And this parameter is going to be called our standard deviation. All right, and we're going to make it an integer, and we're going to make it a list, and I'm just going to do 1, 2, and 3, and we'll display it as 1 std div, 2 std div, and 3 std div. Okay, so that's just a parameter. It's going to be a drop-down list, 1, 2, or 3, basically, and then we're going to use it in a little line of code in a second to tie it behind to what we're doing. Okay, so click OK here. And we can right-click on it and hit Show Parameter, and now we have it in a drop-down list that we can select 1, 2, or 3. So I just right-clicked and hit Show Parameter. It's not going to do anything. It's literally just an arbitrary value right now that we're going to create in code. Now, before we can create and use that, we need to create 2 calculated fields. So we're going to right-click on this white space here in all my green measures. Create a calculated field, and we're going to call this lower control limit. And the code for it is going to be, that's the upper control limit. Lower indicator, sorry, right here. So we will type window underscore average sum of sales minus window underscore standard deviation sum of sales times, and this is where we use our variable standard deviation. Okay, so that's going to be the code there, and then we just close our bracket. So what's happening here is we're taking our sum of sales minus standard deviation of the sum of sales times the standard deviation. So this is going to take, if we've done 1, 2, or 3, it's going to figure out what the standard deviation is, and it's going to basically dynamically create a lower limit. So whatever our average of sales is.
Please, where's the window average coming from?
Window average is a pre-calculated function that we're using in Tableau.
Okay.
So window average is just, it's literally just the average or the mean of sum of sales.
Okay, thank you.
So we'll graph this, so you'll see what window average is. It's just a function built into Tableau. Okay, so it takes all the sales and it just is going to get the mean across the 12 months.
Okay, so it's a function.
And then this is going to get. So it's a function. Yeah. Yep.
Okay. That's all
right. So we can hit. Yeah, we can hit OK. So now we've got this calculated field called lower control limit. I can just right click. I'm going to duplicate it. I'm going to rename it. I'm going to rename it to, instead of copy, I'm going to rename it to upper control limit. So now we've got lower and upper, and I'm going to right click my upper control limit, and I'm just going to make this minus a plus. So now instead of it going down a step from the average line, it's going to go up a step from the average line. Okay? So now we've got our upper, our lower. What we also want to show is our average line. So we're going to bring this average line over to the table, and now we can see what the average is for that year dynamically. So 39,000 is the average. So that's going to be what the window underscore AVG is calculating, sum of sales there. So that's our average. It's going to be 39,000, and then it's going to minus a standard deviation. Now what we want to bring over, I just want to double check. So we've got our average line. We're going to have this line and this line. Okay, we've got our upper control limit. Outlier indicator. Oh yeah, that's later. So now we need to find Tableau. Now we need to actually graph those measures that we've created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring over measure values, right, up here. And it's going to bring in literally everything and try to graph it all in one graph. But we don't want to include all of these. So we can remove. And when I remove some of the ones that we don't want, you'll see it added a filter up to measure names. And measure names is basically the same thing as measure values, but instead of it being the value, it's the name, right, for all of these. So we're just only going to want to keep lower control limit, upper control limit. So I'm going to get rid of all of these. Okay. So here we can see our upper control limit is 60,000. Our lower control limit is 18,000. And they're on two different charts right now. But we can make this a dual axis so that this line is going to be in between our upper and the lower. But before we do that, let's test our standard deviation. Let's see if this 60,000 changes when I go to set two standard deviations, and it does. Now it's 80,000. If I go to 3, now it becomes 100,000. Right, so that is working, but it's on a different chart. So I just have to click this down arrow and do a dual axis, right? And now, within one standard deviation, we can see for the year of 2014, our sales. Now, whenever you do a dual axis, we always have to check our max and our min values of both axes, because here on the left for sales, 75,000, but for our standard deviation, it's 60,000. So we have to do what we did earlier in class, which is where we right-click and synchronize both axes so that they're the same scale, right? And now 60,000 on the right-hand side is going to be 60,000 on the left-hand side over here. Okay, and then we don't need, because they're the same scale now, we don't need both. We can just unclick show header, right? Everyone following so far? Okay, cool. We only got a couple minutes left, so I'm going to go a little bit quicker. So obviously you guys know how to change the colors and show marks for all of these types of things. And you can see we've got measure values. So we could change the color to red for both of these lines, right? If it's like a bad thing. And our sum of sales, if we wanted to show the marks, we could show the labels pretty easily there. If you want to change the color, you could maybe make it, I don't know, gray for now. And then we want to change the color when it's out of range. So we need to create one last calculated field that's going to basically be an if statement. If it's below this value or above this value, and then we can apply that calculated field to the color marks. Okay, so let's just double check that our standard deviations are working. Yep, they are. So all we have to do is come over here, right click, create a calculated field, and this is going to be our outlier control, or outlier indicator, sorry. I guess you can call it whatever you want. Indicator. And the code for it is sum of sales is less than our lower control limit, or sum of sales is greater than our upper control limit. Sum of sales and then we can finish this bracket. Okay, so, oh, I think I got one sum of sales, got a bracket missing there. So if sum of sales is less than lower control limit, or sum of sales is greater than upper control limit, right? So basically if it's outside on the bottom or on the top, then we can take this outlier indicator. You can see there, it's indicated as a true or false, right? Because it's not going to be a number, it's one or the other, it's an or statement. Make sure the mark that you're dragging it to, okay, we have one mark here for our measure values, which is going to be our limits, or we have this marks, which affects the actual line values of the sales. So make sure you're dragging the outlier indicator onto the color marks of the sum of sales. And you can see now it's created a true and a false legend. So orange is true. So true obviously means it's outside of that outlier indicator, and blue is the false, which means it's inside. So we can change these colors just by clicking the little down arrow and editing the colors. And maybe we will just make false a gray and true will be red, because maybe that blends in too much.
We can do green and red. Green for the.
Yeah, we could do green for good, and yeah, but the red kind of blends in with the red of the.
We can change the.
Yeah, that's true. We can change these colors in our measure values. We can change the colors here to blue. So we've got good, green is good, red is bad. And now it's going to be dynamic. So watch this. We have the month of September, November, and December. They're red, right? Because they're above the 60,000 limit. But if we go to 2 standard deviations, now everything is green. So it's dynamically changing based on the standard deviations that we have. So we can change the font, and we can even make this average line. You know, we can edit this average line so that it's a nice dashed line, and we can give it a custom value saying AVG, and then the field name, or sorry, the field value. And then we can make it a nice dashed line that's like a yellow. Make it a little bit thicker. So there you've got your average, 39,000. And now if we change the year even to 2015, our average changes to 91,000, right? And if we go to 2 standard deviations in 2015, well, everything's within it. So you can set these boundary levels, you know, for your health apps or for your Tableau dashboards for the health things, for your steps or calorie intake, or, you know, sleep hours, you know, less than 6 or, you know, greater than 9 hours, then you're oversleeping, right? So you could use this for a lot of use cases, and you could make this look, we could make this look way better, but we're just a little short on time. So, you know, we could make these labels on the upper and lower control limits. We could show labels there, and instead of showing them at every single month, you just go at the line ends, which is just this little button. So now it's just going to show right at the end of the line, right? Or we could go min and max, or sorry, yeah, line ends is probably the best. So it's going to show one at the beginning of the line there and one at the end. We could make it the font a little bit bigger and bold. And then even for this sum of sales label, we could make that font a little bit bigger. And we could make it bold. And again, if you have a value that's too close to another value, you can just click it. Oops. Usually we can just click it and drag it, like this one. If I wanted to, I could just click it and drag it around. So we can click this one and bring it down there, right? And when you click a point, obviously it's going to filter to that point, so it's filtering to that month. That's why the average line comes down for that month, because it's only filtering for the month of April. But yeah, there you go. You can show for all years. We could do like this, and then we could go 1 standard deviation, 2 standard deviations, and we can have fun with a couple parameters. So that is a monthly sales control chart. It doesn't make sense with the sales scenario, but maybe with other options you could find a lot of use cases that this would work with. So any questions about this? Did you guys get it working?
Yeah.
You get it working?
Yeah.
Awesome. Before I forget, I'm just going to quickly take attendance, because that's always makes sense to do. So here we go. We've got Shank and Bishop. No, I always forget your name. Sorry. Is it Bishop? Oh, Ilker. Yes. Yep. There we go. Okay, and then on Teams. Did you guys have questions on Teams? Did anyone need any help getting that working? That is a good question. Is it not set? It should be. Assignment 3, July 8th. So you still got a bit of time for it. All the instructions are here.
Do we have Gantt charts in these bullets?
Actually, I didn't make the first dashboard, first assignment dashboard, because I don't know, I must forget it. I just sent the PDF file. This third assignment is basically.
Yeah, it's based off of it.
Basically.
Yeah.
So how do I do?
You didn't submit anything for assignment 1?
I sent just the PDF file.
Yeah, but part of the submission is like a wireframe for a dashboard.
Yeah, I did.
Did you do it or no? You didn't?
I guess I did last minute, so that's why.
Yeah, so that whole point of those first couple of weeks was talking about planning and user-centered design and why it's so important, and this is clearly why, right? Because now you could just easily base it off of your wireframes. Because you don't have them, you'll have to go create them and then use those to build your dashboard. So this will be due, I think our reading week is this week, so it's going to be due after reading week. So you can work on it over reading week, or you can still do it in the week after. Just don't leave it to the last minute, and you should be fine. Yeah, does someone have a question online?
Okay. Yeah, I have a question concerning the assignment.
Yeah. What's up?
Okay. When we're trying to create a mock-up data, I would create a report or a dashboard, and it doesn't make sense. We are able to like tweak the data to suit the reports that we're trying to create.
So your question's about the mock data for the report. So there's the instructions for how to create the mock data here. You're basically going to create, approximately 6 months of daily data, so 200 rows, and it can just be random stuff, but try to make it, semi make sense. So like heart rates, if you're tracking heart rates or sleep hours, that they're like within limits that would make sense for a human.
Okay.
You had a question about Gantt charts? Okay.
Okay. Hello.
But if it's possible, you can do it.
Hello?
Yeah, 1 second, Christopher. Yeah, if it is,
so what
a lot of work, I mean, you can still find. Oh, 1 sec, Christopher. If you can find a cool tutorial or something to do something like that, I don't have a problem with, as long as it's just not like you downloaded the template and used it. Like,
No, I cannot download it because it's like you have to take measures.
well, yeah. But if you find something that makes sense and you're like, oh, I want to try to implement this, and like you're using some of the stuff from in class, but it's also like some more challenging newer stuff, that's totally fine. You can just also include like the links to the stuff that you used so that I can see. Yeah. Yeah, Christopher?
Okay, I'm asking. What about if you are tracking maybe number of steps walked?
What's your question?
So I'm saying, like you were talking about heart rates, like use about 200 rules of data, or maybe if I tracking heart rate. So assuming you are only working on number of steps walked per day as a healthy lifestyle for your the respondent. Do we still need to have that 200?
You're asking
200
like
rules of
what
data?
what number of steps walked for a healthy lifestyle? Is that what you're asking?
No, I said if that is what you are tracking, do you still need the 200 rules of data?
How many rows of data do you use?
So it's going to be approximately 6 months of daily data.
For steps walked, right? If that's what I'm tracking.
Well, hopefully you're tracking more than just one thing, right? Because like whoever you interviewed had a whole list of things that they wanted to track in their life to become more healthy, right? You did the interview for assignment 1 where you filled out the user design.
I did.
Yeah, so then you would have created a dashboard with multiple metrics and measures that you'd be tracking and graphing. And so you're going to create 6 months of daily data for each of those things that you're going to build a visual for. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, because the guy I interviewed was keen on tracking just one metric.
It should be more than that.
But different visualizations. But can I add that now at this stage?
Yeah, but in assignment 1, when you guys filled this out, you would have made the wireframe and you would have had like 6 visualizations or something. So you'd be tracking more than just one thing. Right, where it says this, you're going to use a final dashboard. Right, all the instructions are here. 2 to 3 visual analysis elements that are the most important to your end user. And make sure that this is from the usability test, right? So if you read through this, everything's pretty clear.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is that like for the assignment 1, the person I interviewed was interested in tracking just the steps walked, but different information was required. You know what I mean? For different visualizations.
Yeah.
So, but just a particular metric is what is of interest to him, which is the daily steps walked and all that. So I'm asking if that is what I'm going to work on for this assignment.
So you'll have to still come up with a couple more things that yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Because you can't just do one. Yeah.
Okay, no problem.
Right, so you'll have to at least meet this requirement here, because when I'm marking it, right, I'm looking for you actually have a good source of data. The elements, right? So you have multiple visual elements, not just one.
Yes.
Right? Okay. A complete full screen, not mobile formatted performance analysis dashboard that includes a formal title, clear chart titles, performance design, clarity, aesthetics, use of color, analysis, filters, tooltips, target lines, calculated measures, conditional formatting, layout, flow, hierarchy, right? That's what I'm looking for. All right. If you do have any questions,
over the reading week, you can email me. I'll do my best to get back. You should be getting grades back this week for your assignment 1s, assignment 1 and assignment 2, probably by the end of the week. I'm going to have to end the recording here, though. I think that we're out of time. So any other burning questions? If not, I think I'll end the online meet here. Thank you so much, guys, for coming to class. Enjoy your reading week, and I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. So no class next week. You can just use the time to relax. If you want to work on your assignment, work on your assignment, and enjoy the nice weather. Okay?
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.